combine small town roots with business savvy, and you've got the Rural Rundown podcast. We're sharing our marketing and branding strategies, tips, and tricks that rural businesses can use to educate, inspire, and entertain their customers, and to help you make sales and hit profit goals. So what does it take to go from your mom is your only fan to famous in a small town? Tune in and listen up as we feature business owners and organizations that are doing big things in their community and creating opportunities for generations to come. Welcome back to another episode of the Rural Rundown podcast. I am so excited about today's episode. We just got off an amazing interview with Tierney, Miss Rodeo America. Rachel, tell me what you're feeling after that conversation.
After talking to Jordan, I just think she's such a light. Like you can tell as she's speaking to you. I don't know. I loved a lot of what she said. I think a lot of the comments she made applies great to business owners, entrepreneurs, and just anyone. I think anybody can get value from this. And she just really answered every question with like such poise and grace. I'm like, wow, you are awesome. I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, she did. I felt the same way where I was like, I could just like pick your brain and keep talking to you the whole time. We talked a little bit about social media, marketing yourself, having a personal brand and what that looks like. She went from a really small social media following to a huge platform with the Miss Rodeo America title. So she really talked about that as well. And I just like, I feel so like energized and excited after talking with her, and I think today's conversation went so well. So without further ado, here is our conversation with the 2020-2021 Miss Rodeo America, Tierney. This conversation I think is going to be excellent just based on a few conversations I've had with you before. So why don't you just introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about your title?
Yes, hello everyone. I am Tierney. I am the Miss Rodeo America 2020 and 2021. I grew up in Oral, South Dakota, which for those of you that don't know, it's a very tiny town in South Dakota in the southwest corner. So where Mount Rushmore's at, I'm like an hour south. That's how I tell everyone when I do my travels as Miss Rodeo America where I'm from. I grew up in rodeo ranching family. It's in my blood through and through. I'm the youngest of four, and we all do it. I graduated in 2017 from Chadron State College with my degree in business administration and marketing. And then I worked for a couple of years in the workforce, and I decided that I wanted to branch out and do something that I'd never done before, and that was rodeo queening. And so I competed for my first title in July of 2018 for the title of Miss Days of 76, 2018. I was lucky enough to get to walk away with that title, and then competed shortly after that for the title of Miss Rodeo South Dakota 2019 that I won that title as well, and then took over January 1st of 2019. 2019, I spent all year traveling, representing the great state of South Dakota and rodeo, and then I went on to compete at Miss Rodeo America. And, clearly walked away with that title. And then COVID hit and just kind of turned the world upside down. And I was a national title holder in a worldwide pandemic. And that caused them to cancel our pageant last year and roll me to the end. So I am the first ever 2-year Miss Rodeo America. It's been an incredible journey, but I just try to, be a great reflection of the people that I represent, and that's rodeo and ranching. So that's a little bit about me.
And tell me a little bit about when you talk about something you've never done before is rodeo queening, because your mom was a former Miss Rodeo South Dakota, correct?
Yes, she was. She was Miss Rodeo South Dakota in 1985. She went on to compete at Miss Rodeo America. She got second runner-up. She won horsemanship and personality categories, which for those of that don't know, there's 3 major categories at the pageant, and those are 2 of the 3. The other one is appearance, which is actually what I won. So I tell my mom, between the 2 of us, we got all 3 of them won. But yeah, so I grew up rodeoing, and I did, barrels, poles, goats, breakaway roping, team roping. So I did a lot of events, and then I also played basketball, volleyball, and ran track. So I was just very involved in activities, and I I personally didn't want to carve out the time to dedicate it to it. And my mom, she always told me and my sister, she said, if you want to do it, it has to be your decision because number one, it's time that you're going to have to dedicate to it and it's going to cost you some money. So if you don't want to dedicate those two things, don't do it because then your heart won't be in it. But I always really loved rodeo queens, especially Miss Rodeo America and Miss Rodeo South Dakota. I always paid attention to who they were. When you'd see them at rodeos, I understood the prestige and the hard work that it took to be them. And I just kind of always had it in the back of my mind. And then I came home and it was a winter day in 2018. And my sister was like, you know what, Jordan, I think you should run for Miss Rodeo South Dakota. And I just kind of had like a moment when I was like, it's great timing in my life. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? You don't win. Like, and then you went through a process and you grew and you learned some things and some skills. And I tell people all the time, in the 4 years that I've been doing this now, the skills that I've walked away with talking, my interpersonal skills, just far exceed what I ever could have learned, maybe studying in a book. I'm much more of a hands-on person. I should probably premise that.
What would you, I know, I was looking at the website that you're on for Miss Rodeo, and what does the like rodeo and the Western lifestyle like mean to you? All of this background, like what does it really brought you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, it kind of has to be at the core of whatever you do, your why. And so for me, like I said, my dad and mom both grew up rodeoing. They're actually first generation rodeo competitors. My dad came from a farm ranch operation in Broken Bow, Nebraska, but he was the first generation to want to rodeo. And then both my brothers rodeo, my sister rodeoed. All four of us kids went to college on rodeo scholarships. And then along with rodeo, we also ranch here in Oral, South Dakota. We run cows, horses. So the lifestyle that ranching is really shown through rodeo to people that don't get to see it. As maybe crazy as that seems as someone who doesn't go to rodeos, but it really gives people who live in urban settings a little glimpse into what, horses, cows, buck and stock, that kind of stuff that, we see every day and might take for granted. And it's maybe that one rodeo that someone goes to as a 5-year-old or 6-year-old, and they get to see a cowboy or cowgirl and they get this appreciation for the whole industry. And that's really, I mean, for me, that's where it comes with preserving it and telling our message and telling the message we want to tell and not having that narrative kind of twisted something by someone who doesn't come from that. So for me, that's what's important about it, is that we are able to show people, the Western way of life through rodeo queening, those kind of things. So that's my why to it, is really the sustainability of our sport and our ranching industry and farming, all agriculture.
I think now more than ever is a time for people to get out there and to share our stories in agriculture and what we're doing. How would you say, like, through this pandemic too, we saw how weak the food supply chain could be, or how a small disruption could really make ripples in this. So maybe talk a little bit about why it's important now in 2021, 2022 to be an advocate for agriculture and for the Western way of life.
Yeah, that's a really complex problem that I think when you look into people, some of their like messaging about global warming and, like how's our effect of that and this and that, we're not looking at bigger factors. They try to just find one thing, and it happens to be our one thing that we, raise and feed in our industry. And then we sell to consumers for meat. And a lot of people, I think the problem is that when they go to the grocery store and they buy some steaks, they don't understand necessarily where those steaks come from. And that's a big problem, is telling people, we raise your food, we grow it, and we love doing that for you, and we want to produce great products for you, and to show them our compassion. One of my favorite women in our industry to listen to and just to like take in everything she says is Amanda Radke. And she is a huge advocate for, telling our story through compassion. And I think in a day and age, especially in 2020 and 2021, when things got so divisive, we could all just use like a little bit more compassion and love in telling our stories. And so always come from a point of view, I would love to show you, I would love to tell you, and always be equipped with the facts and have those in your back pocket, because when it comes, to it, you're going to need to be able to know that. But just being advocates is like having, those conversations with people when they ask you. I travel in this, like in airports all the time. And so people will always be like, oh, and that's a bridge for me to be able to start a conversation with someone. So, if you're a rancher or farmer, wear your boots in the airport, wear your cowboy hat in the airport, wear it in the gas station, like wear something that will start a conversation and start sharing your story.
Absolutely. I think those are great tips because I feel like that when I'm traveling to and flying, if I ever see anybody with boots or cowboy hats, I feel more like
Yeah.
connected,
Like, hey,
right?
that's a person over there.
Yeah. Exactly.
And this is just like, this might seem simple and silly to some people, but like there's shirts, that say like support local ranchers, support local farmers. Like it's a graphic tee. It's cute. Wear it. Wear it out in public, start a conversation, like, or eat beef, or, beef, like have things that people see and they're like, yes. And it starts conversations, and it's a gate to open that.
I love
Absolutely.
that. And like a simple way, like instead
Yeah.
of thinking you have to be like
You
a
don't have to wear a 10-gallon
yeah.
cap or a 10-gallon hat in the airport. You can just wear a cute graphic tee and some yoga pants and you'll be good to go.
I do have a question for you. As you did this, I feel like one of the big things you've had to do is market yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Relating it to some of our listeners who are small business owners, sometimes I think it's hard to want to put yourself out there and learn how to do it and feel like it's still you. Do you kind of have any advice or things you learned through this process that kind of helped you get better at it, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question because so when you become Miss Rodeo America, you're handed this platform, this social media platform. And to just give you a little idea, the Miss Rodeo America Instagram now has about 37,000, I believe, followers. And then the Facebook has around 66, I believe. So, I went from a very small following on my personal social medias. I think I maybe had 1,000 followers on my personal Instagram. And then on Facebook, it's like just friends and family. So when you go from that to that, you have these followers that have been there for years and years. And so they're there to see Miss Rodeo America. And what you have to do is you have to say, I'm Miss Rodeo America. And at my very core, I'm Jordan Tierney. Rodeo ranching. That's what I am. That's, when I went into this pageant, that's how I marketed myself. I said, when I get this position, that's who I am, and that's who I'm going to stay true to. And so for me, I was, it's a glass half full type of situation. You could be like, well, COVID hit and I didn't get to go anywhere. Well, so when I came home, I came home to the ranch because I live at home with this title, and we were calving. It was right when we started calving. So I was helping my mom and dad calve out. And then, we get some spring storms. We're having to do stuff in the winter. And then summer comes, I was home for branding. So I got to be home for branding, moving calves and cows to summer pasture, like those kind of things. And then this winter, actually, my parents went to Arizona. They winter in Arizona. So I was home quite a bit. So I did all the chores. And so I just took this video one day because I had this snowsuit from a sponsor of ours, and I wear it all the time when I'm outside and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get some video footage of me breaking this stock tank that we have out in this pasture. And I have like my axe and I have my pitchfork, getting the chunks of ice out. And I literally just took a video and I posted it. I said, thanks to my sponsor for, this great snowsuit, and, really helps on these cold winter days. And I mean, it blew up. Like, people loved it. And it was just something that, like, in the moment I was kind of like, I need to get a post out for this sponsor. And then it just really resonated with people. And as cliche as it sounds, you can say it till you're blue in the face, but until people start doing it, that's when they'll really get it. Is authenticity resonates with people. But I'm a firm believer that you don't have to be one or the other. Like I can go break ice in the stock tank with no makeup on. Like I don't know the last time I brushed my hair, to I love makeup, I love sparkly things. Like you can be all of those things, and that can be part of your brand. You don't have to just pick, I'm a punchy, I only do this, I only stay in this lane. You can love big hair and makeup and also be trusted to take care of the ranch in 2 feet of snow. Like you can do it. So I guess that's kind of my messaging, is that I just wanted to share that this is my lifestyle. I don't just say it when I have like the hat and crown and sash on. I live it when I'm don't have it. I'm here doing it. So that's my story, and I hope it resonates with people.
I think for people who don't know, Oral, South Dakota has a population of 60 people, I believe, is
Yeah.
like the population sign, right? So when you talk about that too, like that's who you are. And this, first of all, South Dakota is like ranching heritage. I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
people are so proud and so passionate about it already. But how do you really take that, like you said, just the everyday chore life in a town of 60 people to a platform that has 30,000 people, and to some of these rodeos you literally on a national stage? Maybe talk to us about like the mindset behind that, or showing up authentically just you.
Yeah, so I'm a very like happy, bubbly person, naturally. And so, I mean, thank God, like the good Lord above, like blessed me with that personality trait, that I'm just like easygoing. But also, I attributed that to being raised in South Dakota. And like you said, in the community that I did, the people I remember, like just to give you an example, I remembered when I had my coronation as Miss Rodeo South Dakota. I had it in my in a town just over from us, Hot Springs, which is bigger than Oral. But so I had this dinner and I had an auction, and like literally everyone from my small community of Fall River County and Oral and Hot Springs and Oryx and all these little pockets in our county came out and supported me. And I mean, I was blown away by the support that my neighbors that I grew up with, I babysat their kids when I was 14. And so it was incredibly humbling to know that, I know that not all these people might not have so much to spare, and that they came out and supported me. And even if it was just buying a ticket to the event, and spending maybe $50 on like a little item or something, that they did that for me. And so when I go off to people and I go out to these communities or go compete at the national stage for Miss Rodeo America, I wanted the people at home that came out and supported me to be proud of me. And so to do that was remaining authentic to myself, and showing up as the person that they all knew who I was, and not becoming someone different. As crazy as it sounds, like don't let the spotlight change you.
I think some of our business owners, especially people who live in small towns, rural areas, they're a little afraid maybe to let some people in and like let the followers in, especially when we talk about the agriculture industry. So, are there any tips that you have for somebody being like, hey, like, because I've been to your ranch and what's out there, it is kind of like just a little slice of heaven. That whole Fall County, is like that. But um, welcoming in 30,000 people via social media to your slice of heaven, do you have any tips for people to bridge that gap and to get their face on social media?
Yeah, so I would say that's a really good question. Some of the like best conversations that I've had, like so for Wrangler, for example, I've done a couple of photo shoots for them, and like my makeup artist was from LA. Like she does like celebrities makeup, and like just conversations with her about like what I do on the ranch and stuff. And then like my stylist for that same photo shoot, it was like these two girls like from LA that like do like these big campaigns. And so I always find like some of the most amazing conversations I have with people are with people who do not come from the rodeo background. I mean, I have some amazing conversations with people who are rodeo and ranching, but like people that have no idea and they just want to learn. And so when you ask for advice like how to open yourself up, I personally have not had a bad experience with that. And I know that maybe some other people, if they do that, they might open, but you never know until you try.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you never know until you jump. So you have to just start sharing, go back to sharing your story. You know, I showed once our sunset over like all the mama cows and the babies out on like the plains, and we have like the black hills in the background, and the sun was setting, and it like just rained, so it was like dewy. It was a beautiful photo, and I just took it on my iPhone and I posted it. But people don't know that like, those kind of sites exist in our little like small town USA, and they do, and we're so lucky, and we take them for granted every single day. And people might see that one little shot and it just might resonate with them, like, wow, you know, like there's so much beauty in like these small places. And then one day when they get the chance to travel through, or if they ever get the chance to come to South Dakota, like they're going to stop. And so going back to like a small business owner, for example, and like their small little town, like don't just show, you know, your business. What's your community? What's, you know, what's your surrounding areas? What value, you know, does this bring other than the product that you're trying to sell? Because the product is just something that they'll come and get. And what's the experience that they're going to get through coming and getting that product? I mean, that's my advice. I'm not a business owner, but that's just what I can say in terms of like South Dakota and sharing my side through the large following that I've had on social media.
I think you really kind of hit the nail on the head, though. I mean, that's what I tell my clients that I work with is we got to collab with the community. How do we show why you live here, why you work here, why that's important to you? So I think you really covered it great.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Over the past 2 years, do you kind of have like a favorite memory that sticks out being Miss Rodeo America?
Man, I have so many. And to be entirely honest, I need to like sit down and write them down because I have to talk about them at the Miss Rodeo America contest for speeches. I like MC that, and in between the girls, like I will tell stories. But I do. I have so many incredible ones. And one of my very first ones, and I talk about it a lot, I was down in Jackson, Mississippi, and they had the school for the deaf that we got, or I'm sorry, the school for the blind that we got to go to. And then we also went to this assisted adult living facility. And I've done a lot of community involvement at other events that I've gone to, like schools or radio, those kind of things. But that was the first time I've really gone to a school that was for impaired children. And we brought in like our chaps and like horse horse brushes and like bits and spurs and like all the kind of things, because since they don't have their vision, one of their biggest senses is like feel, touch, and whatnot. And just the kids were amazing. Like it was very, very touching, and it's something that I'll never forget. And then this adult assisted living facility, the people were just like so joyful, and they were just, it was called the mustard seed. And so you have, if you have faith, you know, the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And it was amazing. Like these people were so full of questions. They just wanted, like, they were so excited for us to be there. It was a really incredible experience in Jackson, Mississippi, and I loved it. This year when I went back, though, unfortunately, we didn't get to do those 2 trips because of COVID restrictions. So that was in 2020. And then I would say one of my favorite experiences in 2021. There's been a lot of great ones, but this is just me being a little like close to home, but it was getting to go to Rodeo Rapid City in Rapid this winter. It was our winter rodeo, and I wanted to go to it in 2020, but I had another event booked over it, so I wasn't able to make it. So to get to go back and get to go to that one, I love the Sutton family. They're incredible to work for. They were so in my corner as Miss Rodeo South Dakota. They cheered me on so much and just gave me encouragement literally every single time I saw them. Like one person in that family was like telling me that like I could be Miss Rodeo America, like I could do it. And so to just have people like that I mean, it was incredible. So to get to go back and work for them and get to be around them as Miss Rodeo America was really special. So that one's just a very sentimental, and it was a great, great trip. And I did get to go rock climbing in Estes Parks, Colorado. I should say that. That was actually really cool too. It was like, it's called Varia Verata. I don't know. It's some type of climbing technique. So they had like these rods inserted into the rocks and then like a cable that went along. So like you were clipped in the entire time and you're climbing up like a ladder essentially that was kind of like spread out. So it was very safe, but it was a little scary sometimes when you went down. I'll never do it again, but it was a great experience. Not really outdoorsy in that sense.
I'll never do it again.
It was great.
So now that we are recording this in the end of September. We're getting really close to the NFR again, and that is when the pageant takes place. Talk to us a little bit about how the pageant works and some of the qualifications or the processes that you go through when selecting the new Miss Rodeo America.
Yes. So the first qualification is that the girls have to be a state title holder in order to compete. So they have to have some sort of state title, and then they come out to Las Vegas, and it will start the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and then it will go. Let me look at my calendar here. It will go to like December. I should know this. It'll go to December 5th, my mom's birthday. That's right. So it'll go from the 28th of November to December 5th. And it starts on the 28th and it ends on the 5th. So it's 8 days. It's a very intense pageant. As a competitor, they will get up almost every single morning at around 4 a.m. or 4:30 in order to be ready to go down to breakfast, because they have breakfast with the judges. And then they have various events throughout the week. So they will start with horsemanship that Monday on the 29th. And so horsemanship is a way that they judge the cowgirls ability to ride a horse, because as Miss Rodeo America you go to a lot of different events and you will ride a lot of different horses during your year, but she will not get to ride the horse, not get to warm up the horse at any sort of capacity. She just goes in the back, gets on, and then they side pass her down, and then she turns and she goes in the arena and she does a reining pattern that they will find out the morning of. There's 3 patterns that they pick from. I'm getting very detailed here in horsemanship, but it's pretty intense. And then you come back and you also do rail work in like a group setting. There will be like 3 groups of 10. So that's horsemanship. And then along with horsemanship, they also have a horsemanship interview that will be later on in the week. They that same night of horsemanship, they have an impromptu question that will be like current event based, and then they have a personality interview that will be around 10 minutes long. The horsemanship interview is around 10-minute long, so that's 2 separate interviews. And then they will have speeches, which are extemporaneous speeches. And then they go into, they have various sorry, there's a thing that just popped up. They have various impromptu questions. It'll be like PRCA based and some other things. And then they have a very, very cool fashion show that you guys should all tune in and watch, because it's amazing. And they'll model, Wrangler outfits, sponsored outfits. And then the girls also will model a custom outfit that they will have made for that event. And then they have a Justin Boot parade that, again, they sell an auction item there. And then they have Coronation Day, and Coronation, the top 5 are the only 5 that will answer another impromptu question. And then that's the end of the pageant. And then you find out the results. It's a nerve-wracking experience, and regardless of the outcome for the girls at the end of that pageant, you will come out of that pageant a changed person, because it will make you, like, the mental toughness that goes along with it, and it will make you realize that like you can do hard things, and if you can get through those 8 days, you can do anything, regardless of if you walk away as Miss Rodeo America or not. The mental toughness that it prepares you with is incredible, and it takes you way further in life.
It's been incredible to see I've met so many people in the rodeo industry who I didn't realize were former Miss Rodeo America like
Yeah.
winners, and then I was like, oh, like you were a title holder, and like this year, and like things make so much more sense. So like with all that being said, obviously there's a lot that goes into this, prepares you for a lot. What is kind of like next? What's in the future for you, Jordan Tierney, as a person?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Last year, like at the beginning of the year, you start getting that question, and then COVID hit, and I was kind of like, "Oh, this is like cool because now I get to tell people like, "Oh, I got another year's being
Yeah.
Miss Rodeo America." So I kind of like slid past that question for a long time, and then now I'm getting closer to the end of my reign. I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, we got to figure that out." No, but with my title comes an educational scholarship. So my plan is to go back to grad school and get my business administration graduate degree. And I would like to do that through either USD or Black Hill State University. And get it in state, and I will also be pursuing it online so that I can start working. And I don't have a job solidified yet, but I would like to have a job within the rodeo industry, keeping me, connected in terms of like the marketing side of it. I've really enjoyed learning about the production of rodeo, and being on that side and getting to know various sponsors throughout our industry. So I'm very excited about that. And also being, like we talked about, continuing to be an advocate for ranching and rodeo and just the Western way of life in general. And even though I'll go back to my personal following, which will be a way smaller amount than I have at the Miss Rodeo America level, but if you can change one person's mind, or if you can show your story, to a handful of people, that has them viewing, the way that we do things in a positive light, then you're an advocate and you're doing a great job. So that's my plan. And get to rodeo again. I'm so excited. Breakaway roping is like exploding right now. So I'm so excited to get to compete again and just, help mom and dad on the ranch. And I will be moving out though. I will be doing that. Maybe not far, but I'll be moving out.
I do have one question for you, and it kind of goes back to where you left off when you were talking about the pageant. So you said, I've actually been thinking a lot lately about mental toughness. So it's interesting that you said that. And
Yeah.
as you were talking about all that stuff, in my mind, I was going, how would you prepare for something like that? But then after you said, like, you come out of it and you're so much stronger. And I was thinking about when we go through life, like, there's going to be things that happen, like, not exactly going to through a pageant thing like you
Yeah,
did,
for sure.
but where you have to kind of, you do need to be mentally tough. Do you
Mhm.
kind of have any like tips or tricks or things you've learned while going through that pageant, and also this 2 years of kind of unknown things that you
Yeah.
kind of share with us?
Yeah, that's actually been a real like journey for me, because I'm a very goal-oriented person. So competing for Miss Rodeo America, like I had the goal, I had it written down like on, where I would see it every single day, like Miss Rodeo America 2020 Jordan Tierney. Like I said it to myself every single day. I mean, I studied like I never studied like that in school. And like for the Miss Rodeo America's pageant, I would study like 6 hours a day, work on my modeling constantly. All of our horses that we have here on the ranch, I think every single one has done a reining pattern for the Miss Rodeo America. I mean, it was such a nose to the grindstone type of attitude and a tunnel focus that I had with it, because I had a goal in mind. And so for me personally, my toughness has to stem with having a goal in mind. And so after I got the title, and I was busy, 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 trying to do the best job I could as this title holder. In the beginning, you're so busy you don't really have time to think about it. And then once the world stopped and I came home, and everything started getting canceled, and I just like I didn't know, and no one really had any answers for me, which I don't blame them, but it was kind of like this, like you lose your why or you lose your purpose. And so I tried to like refocus that, and so I started working out again. I tried, I was reading books, I was trying to do things that kept myself motivated. And so now for me, coming to the end of my reign, my mental toughness is really like focusing on like what's life after, and how are you going to set yourself up when you're done with this title to, grow into the career that you want to have, not just, a job that you get some money from, but like a career. Like, what's your brand going to be? Who are you going to be? Like, how are you going to build this? And so, I've had moments in these last 2 years when I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do it. Like, I will be the first to admit it has not been easy, and sometimes, but my mom and dad, thank God I have the mom and dad that I do, because they are such believers in like self-talk and mental toughness. And so my whole life, they've told me, what's your self-talk? If it's not positive, that's feeding your mind garbage. So reading good books, listening to good podcasts. Like, I have several podcasts on my phone that like I turn on daily and I'm listening to. And some days I'm more, mentally sharp or mentally tough than others. And some days, I'm not. And that's just like life. But it's finding consistency and having more good days than bad days is what I would say. But when it comes to mental toughness, having a goal and inputting good things into your mind and body is what's going to help you achieve it. So that's what I can say. I mean, I'm only 27 years old. I don't know it all. And I hope that I never do. I hope that I always continue to be a student and want to learn.
You are like the coolest person ever. Like, seriously. And your parents too, like you are your own person without like their titles or whatever. But after meeting with your parents, like your dad the same way has like the coolest things to say about mental toughness, and they have like their little like sayings that go with it, and it's hard to walk away from any of you without feeling better about yourself and smiling. So like props to the whole Tierney family, because like you're just awesome people. But I think what you're talking about goes a lot with people who are maybe making that jump from a 9 to 5 job to starting their own business or just changing. Like, that's kind of the same season you're in. So all of that I think is excellent advice for anybody in many different seasons of life.
Yeah, for sure. It's I always I always thought, like, when I was in school, when like school was hard and stuff, I was like, man, I just can't wait to get to real life, because like it's gonna be easy. Like, it's just gonna be like you get a job, you just and it's not. Like, but if it is, then are you really pushing yourself, and are you really growing, and are you becoming a better version of yourself day in and day out? So that's the question I ask myself. And yeah, so it's been great.
um Sorry, let me rephrase. Let me think about how I want to phrase this question. Um, because I think you have a lot of good things to say about using a platform and choosing something that you really feel passionate about. Both of your parents too talk about how like you like of course you're the perfect person for this title, having your ranching background. Um, for somebody who maybe doesn't feel like, gosh, I just can't figure out what I'm passionate about or what I really love. Like, do you have any advice for somebody who's maybe like struggling through that season?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, because back in 2018, like when I said, so I was working in Hot Springs at a physical therapy clinic that like just opened up, and I had a great boss. And what my boss did for me in that time, I am forever grateful for. But I was the office manager, and in that job, I was kind of at the highest that I could ever go with that job. And I was doing like the insurance billing, and it was great. And I learned a ton. I also learned that I hate insurance companies. I shouldn't say I hate them, but they are just not fun to work with. Anyways, but I kind of had that. I kind of, like you said, like I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I have this degree, and I love rodeo, and I want to get my foot into the door, but how do I do that? Like, what's my avenue? Do I become a Western influencer? Like, do I, put in applications with these companies and try and, work my way from the bottom to the top? Like, how am I going to do this? And literally it was a God thing. And I can really only say that is I came home, like while I was having these like thoughts day in and day out at like work. And I was like, Jordan, I always just had this feeling like I was born for more. Like, God gave me this big personality of like, I love to just be in the spotlight and like talk to people. Like, how do I use that? And so I came home, and my sister, she just said to me one day, she's like, I think you should run for Miss Rodeo South Dakota. And it was like a light went off. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what I need to do. Like, that's how I get my foot in this industry. That is how I make a name for myself. You know, I'm Jordan Tierney, Paul Tierney's daughter. Like, how do I become known as Jordan Tierney?
Yeah.
You know? And so that's when it went for me. And I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. So what I would say to people when you're in this season, God might be giving you signs. And he might have sent already 3 people that were like, hey, you know, you need to do this, but you have self-doubt creeping into your mind and you're like, no, that would be too hard. I can't do that right now. You know, I don't have the financial backing, or I don't have, you know, the support that it would take to do that. So just taking that leap of faith, and as crazy as it sounds, like it's a huge part of it. And like listening, just like, and maybe it's finding a good book that would maybe lead you into finding that type of purpose that you're looking for, or maybe it's finding a good podcast or someone that you really look up to as an entrepreneur or whatever it is, and emulating what they do and say. As long as you're trying and as long as you keep like crawling towards it, you're gonna get there. It's just a matter of like how quick or, you know, how slow, but as long as you just keep putting in the work. It's hard when you're not seeing results right away, you know, but when you get it, like it's going to be like, this is what I've worked for, this is what I want. So I mean, again, like I'm not an entrepreneur, but this is just like where I'm at in my life. And even I have, you know, like things and dreams in my head that I'm like, I got to do, like, you know, and I know it's not going to happen in the next year, but like maybe in 10 years or maybe in 5 years. But like, how do I set myself up now so that I can do that later on and I can like be working towards those goals? So
Absolutely.
Do you have a book or a podcast that you could recommend that you really got a lot of value out of?
Yes. So I listen. So actually one of the books that I listened to, and I think probably every woman in the United States listened to it when it came out, back in 2018, it was like in that summer when I was deciding to do this. It was the Rachel Hollis Girl Wash Your Face book, like an amazing book. And I got it on audiobook, and I listened to it actually a couple times. I don't necessarily listen to her podcast that much anymore, but like the Ramsey show with Dave Ramsey, I know it's like a money show, which is always good for me to hear too. Like, Jordan, you need to save money. but also like he just is really real with a lot of people. And he's like, hey, knock it off. Like stop it. Let's see here. What else do I really like listening to? I listen to like some political ones, but those aren't like those are just for my enjoyment and for that's how I like digest the news. But also the this gonna sound kind of crazy, or not crazy, but the Joe Rogan podcast. But I like to listen to the ones where he has experts in their field on, because I think there's a lot to learn from having an open dialogue with someone that like you don't understand everything that they're talking about, and how to have conversations with people whose views like you don't agree with necessarily, and how we learn, because I think when we start to learn how to do that, we come more united and we can learn from each other. You know, it's kind of like a masterminding type of class. Other books that I've listened to, so the 5 love languages for singles. It doesn't just talk about like romantic relationships, it talks about like your family relationships, your work relationships, you know, how to be a better employee, how to be a better boss, you know, how to speak those to people around you. And I have a huge, like, I am a big time of like quality time type of person. And I think that's why I love being Miss Rodeo America, because I get to go to these places, these rodeo committees, or, you know, these different areas, and I get to spend time with these people, where they're from, and I get to learn about them, and I get to have that quality time. So that's one thing that I'm actually rereading it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's why I love this job so much. What's some other ones? The Mind Gym. My dad got that for us when I was like, I think I was like 10 years old, and he had all 3 of us kids read it. It's a really good one though. It's about mental toughness. So yeah, and then I'm actually just got a new book that I'm going to start reading, and it's called 75 Hard by Andy Feralis. It talks about his 75 Hard program and just the mental toughness that it instills in people. So I'm going to be reading that. I haven't yet, but I'm going to. And then also another one, sorry, this is just like a really short one, and it's a super easy read. It is called Make Your Bed. And it's Make Your Bed. It's by this this guy in the military, and he did this college speech once, and it went viral. And he basically says, like, make your bed, and if it's the only thing you got done that day, at least you accomplished like making your bed. And so it just talks about kind of the domino effect of having that self-discipline to make your bed every single day will leak into other areas of your life and make you more, self-disciplined, productive person. So those are just a few that like come to the top of my head.
I love that. I hadn't heard of quite a few of those before. I will put a plug in for our book club, which will, when this comes out, we will be recording it, I guess, that same day. But we are we are reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which doesn't really seem like a business book because it's about the story of Nike and how Nike started. But once you're in it, it's totally like business.
Wasn't he a coach for the Lakers?
I don't know that he ever coached. He was a track kid for Oregon State.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have a Shoe Dog.
Shoe Dog, yep.
I'm gonna have Shoe Dog. Shoe Dog. Yeah. I'm gonna get that and I'm gonna read it.
Yeah, it was a very good one. Perfect. Well, I think that's all the questions I have. Rach, do you have any more?
Yes, Jordan, where can people follow you, stay in touch with you, and kind of see what you're doing?
Yes, so Miss Rodeo America, Facebook, I'm pretty sure it's just Miss Rodeo America. There's no official or anything to it. And then on Instagram, it is Miss Rodeo America Official. So those are the two social medias. And then, of course, we have our website, missrodeoamerica.com, that you can go to and like read a little bit about the organization and, the history about it all. So those are the areas that people can find me. And in 2022, just look at my personals.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Rural Rundown podcast.
Thanks for listening. You can always find us on social media at the Rural Rundown.
And if you really liked this episode, we would totally love it if you gave us a review and gave us a little rating.
It would mean so much to us. And for more small town roots and business savvy, catch us on the next one.